2 months ago, my wife of 5 years cheated on me. Even though she's trying to fix things, I can't shake the feeling that our marriage is broken. My wife cheated on me 2 months ago. She went out drinking with her friends. It doesn't happen often, even though I asked her multiple times to stay home with me and our 2-year-old son that night. This guy bought her a bunch of drinks at the bar, and she ended up really drunk, which is not like her at all. Her friends felt uneasy and wanted her to come home, but she insisted on taking a cab. Eventually, they left her alone with the guy. It turns out she went home with him. I kept sending her texts and calling her, trying to find out where she was. I even asked her friends, but they didn't respond either. I had never felt so anxious in my life. Wow. She returned at 3 a.m., smelling of alcohol and in tears. She admitted everything right at the door, every single detail. She didn't even know this guy's name, but liked him enough to go to his house and sleep with him on his bed. Once her mind was clear, she started crying about what she had done and took a cab home. I was really angry but didn't want to say or do anything because I knew it could land me in jail. I told her to shower and go to sleep. Then, I took off my wedding ring and left the house. I drove around for a while, screaming in the car. She's constantly messaging and leaving voicemails, apologizing and asking me to return. I return a few hours later, and she's awake, still crying and mumbling. I asked her what we should do next, and she promised to do whatever it takes to earn my trust back. I considered divorcing right away, but I loved my wife and felt a deeper connection with her than with anyone else. I haven't forgiven her yet, but I gave her a chance to make things right. She was happy, but crying, saying she doesn't deserve it, but will make the best of it. It seems she has kept her promise. She stays in when I'm not around, lets me see everything she has, drinks only when I'm there, and puts in a lot of effort to make me happy by cooking my favorite meals, getting me gifts, apologizing often, doing extra chores to free up my time, and even writing poems to ask for my forgiveness. She admitted to her friends what she had done, and now they keep distancing themselves from her because of their disgust for her actions towards me. She informed her parents about her actions and clarified that she was raised better than that, as she is trying to save her marriage. She never tried to blame the cheating on me or shift any responsibility away from herself. She didn't attempt to explain or defend her actions because she understood there was nothing wrong with our relationship to point to. She took full responsibility and admitted her mistakes. She mentioned she's ready to do anything necessary for as long as needed to save our marriage. She cries occasionally out of remorse, like before bed, during showers, or even while cooking. This seems like the right move after cheating. I get it. She is doing everything perfectly. I can't shake the image from my mind. Whenever she tries to get close, I can't help but think of her and him. I freeze up and end up pushing her away, but not in a harsh way. Since that night, we haven't even hugged. She has attempted to kiss me before, but I always pull away. I've been staying in the guest bedroom while she pleads for me to join her and then cries herself to sleep every night. I'm certain that she is really sorry and that her remorse is genuine. These aren't the fake tears that many cheaters shed when they're exposed. She followed all the steps correctly. She told me right away, changed her ways, and followed my requests. She occasionally asks if I've forgiven her, and I always respond with not yet. A few weeks back, I brought up the idea of divorce. She completely broke down, saying she could never love another man, would never let anyone else raise our child, and that I mean everything to her. She said her whole world would fall apart if she lost me. Out of everyone who has cheated and tried to earn back their partner's trust, my wife has done the best job. Even so, I can't stop thinking about what she did. I wake up in the morning, and the first thought that crosses my mind is her in his bed with him. I can't sleep lately because the idea of them being intimate is on my mind. I constantly feel nauseous and numb. I can't shake the thought that another guy slept with my wife. It's on my mind constantly. I want this to stop, but I can't seem to get it out of my head. Sometimes, I just want to let all my anger out on her, calling her every name I can think of and expressing how much I dislike her. Recently, I've been spending hours at a local pier, just looking out at the ocean. I go there to clear my mind and take a break from what she did. When I get home, the misery begins all over again. I'm unsure about my feelings for my wife now. Sometimes I feel so much anger towards her that it makes me sick to think I married her. At times, I remember her as she was before the betrayal, and in those moments, I find it possible to love her again. They only last a few seconds. I feel guilty for wanting a divorce. She has been doing everything right since the cheating, so I should forgive her, correct? I think that's what many would do, but I can't stop thinking about her and him. I realize that if I continue to dwell on them, this marriage won't survive. Our anniversary is in 9 days. This brings back memories of our relationship, the wedding, the birth of our son, trips we took, and happy days. It hurts a lot, a deep pain in my chest and throat when I think about them. We've been together since high school, completely committed and faithful. I just can't understand how she could do this to me, how she could make a series of bad choices that led to cheating. My mouth gets dry when I think about how that night went. She kissed him, walked into his home, went to his bedroom, laid down on his bed, and took off her clothes. Sometimes I have thoughts about hurting myself, her, or the other guy. I think about cheating on her to balance things out. I often think about hurting her, but I would never actually do it. I have never touched my wife. I don't harm others. I've never experienced thoughts like this before. My wife's cheating messed with my mind more than I thought it could. I feel different now. I always feel empty inside. I'm wondering if there's a way for me to forgive her. Should I just get a divorce and move on to find someone who won't cheat on me? I want my son to understand that cheating is not okay. I worry that if I stay with my wife, my son might think it's acceptable to forgive cheating. I don't want him to ever be in a situation where he stays with someone who has cheated on him. I keep going through each day, hoping for a moment of clarity where I can forgive her and feel love for her again. It feels like a lost cause. I need assistance. I'm unsure about my next steps. I'm tired of being unwell. Update 1. I've decided what my next steps will be. I plan to discuss with her the idea of finding a way to balance things out. I'll wait for her response, and based on that, I might consider reconciling or just go for a divorce. I'm going to ask her for the complete truth about this guy. It's strange that she can recall he's divorced, 33, and not in shape, but can't remember his name. This isn't a good idea. This was my desire for revenge speaking. I won't attempt to balance things out. I'm going to find out everything from her and then prepare to bring up divorce. I want her to face the consequences of her actions. One user mentioned in a private message that she would suffer the most if I left her. She said that would ruin her. I'm not getting a divorce just to get back at her. No. I'm taking this step because I don't want to stay in a broken marriage. I'm taking this step because she betrayed me and I refuse to let her walk all over me and justify her actions. I likely won't change my mind, but I'll provide an update later regardless. Update 2. I intended to write this yesterday, but I didn't have the time. After reading all the responses and messages, I took some time to think about my next steps. One message suggested I deserved to be cheated on, and I even spoke on the phone with another Redditor who was willing to help me out. I asked her for the complete truth yesterday. Just the usual, her crying, saying sorry, and asking for another chance. She couldn't recall his name since it wasn't mentioned after they met. She said she continued talking to him because he was clearly infatuated with her looks, and she felt sorry for him after his recent divorce, losing his house, custody, and money. My wife tried to comfort him and ended up getting her ego boosted, then slept with him. Her phone was on silent the entire time, which was odd for her, but she wanted to spend time with her friends without interruptions. Calls from her husband seemed to be interruptions that night. Her giving him what seemed like a pity fuck made me lose the little respect I had for her. She promised that she would do everything necessary for as long as needed to earn back my trust and save our marriage. I asked her how far she was willing to go, and she said if it meant me having sex with another woman in front of her, she would be okay with that. She was willing to have a half-open relationship if that's what it took from my side. She would tell her son the truth when he grew up, no matter what it took. She claimed she would do anything necessary. I was surprised and moved by this. At that moment, I realized my wife felt genuine regret and loved me deeply. I realized that her apology and everything she did was sincere. I thought she would definitely take back what she did if she had the chance. I cared deeply for my wife. Then I realized that a lot of people live their lives without ever cheating on their partner. Some women would never find themselves in a situation that might lead to cheating. In 12 years together, I have never cheated, even when I had chances to do it. I deserve a woman who will be loyal to me. My wife tried everything to make up for her cheating, but once something is broken, it can't go back to how it was. I prefer being single over staying in a marriage that was once broken and fixed. Taking her back wouldn't change anything. The marriage would be different, and I refuse to put myself through that kind of pain. I don't want to live in fear, questioning if my wife is really at the grocery store, if she's actually working late, or if she's going to hurt me again. I told her I wanted a divorce, and she fell apart. I told her why, even though she was begging. She knelt down and pleaded at my feet, saying she would rather die than be without me. I explained that actions have consequences, and I can't forgive her for cheating. She was crying, so I suggested she go back to her parents for a while. I agreed to look after our son, but she can come to see him whenever she wants. She cried and pleaded, but I stood my ground. She is leaving in 2 days. I'm going to see a divorce lawyer soon and start the process. I don't think being away from my wife will change how I feel, but I'm not really sure. She created her situation. Now she has to deal with it. I suppose that's all. I plan to divorce her and work on getting my life back on track. I realize it's early to consider this, but I've chosen to keep things civil and minimal with my wife during the divorce. I won't consider getting back together with her, but I'll be respectful in our future interactions for my son's benefit. During the next few months apart, I plan to make the most of my time. My main priority is my son. I will check in with my wife's family to see how she is doing. I won't meet new women until my divorce is finalized. I plan to hit the gym more often to release my anger. I plan to spend my free time on my hobbies, like playing the piano and painting, to express my emotions. I won't provide any more updates. I appreciate everyone who offered advice and tried to help me decide. I believe in my actions and hope for a positive outcome. My brother's fiancée left me out of their wedding. My family has always been aware of my sexuality. I came out as a teenager, and everyone has been really supportive. I was lucky to have great people around me. My brother and his fiancée are getting married, and I was one of the first people they invited. I felt really happy for them and had a gift picked out and everything. Everyone was really excited. Today, my brother texted me unexpectedly, saying that while he wants me at his wedding, he doesn't think it's a good idea for me to attend. When I asked why, he said his fiancée won't allow a sinner at the reception, her words, and doesn't agree with homosexuality, which really shocked me. She always appeared to be on my side. I never sensed any negativity from her before this. It seems she can't accept my sexuality and has just been pretending to be fine with it to avoid making things uncomfortable at family gatherings. I found out that most of her family agrees with this. I realized they were religious, but not to this extent. The more I found out, the more nauseous I became. I cared for her deeply, believing she felt the same way about me. It feels like a bad dream. It just doesn't seem real. I called my brother to talk about it more, and I just lost it. I had a lot of questions, but didn't know how to ask them. He attempted to make me feel better. It seemed like he didn't want to go along with this, but his fiancée was making him do it. I was really upset, so I called my parents to explain what happened. I couldn't stop crying. I felt hurt and betrayed by my brother and his fiancée. My dad said if I can't go, he's backing out of the wedding, and my mom agreed. I think I'm tearing the family apart, and it makes me feel awful. I really can't get this. My brother and I have always been really close. He has always supported me the most. We have always supported one another. I was really looking forward to being there for his big day. I feel really down and ashamed right now. This time, I'm struggling to accept myself, which is unusual for me. I didn't pick my sexuality. I have always been like this. This is painful. I'm at a loss for what to do next. Update 1. The post gained a lot of attention, and many of you sent your kind wishes and helpful advice. Thank you all. This community is great. In that moment, I felt completely alone, questioning my life and reflecting on who has truly supported me. For the first time in a long while, I felt shame over something beyond my control. I've moved on and looked for answers and clarity about what happened. I thought I was the one who caused the family to break apart, but you all told me it was actually my brother and his fiancée who were the ones doing that. The more I considered this, the more I understood it was accurate. My brother also had a say in his special day. Several of you mentioned that my brother was being spineless for not standing up for me and should have supported me from the start. Once my sadness faded, I totally agreed with this, and it was painful to realize that anything else was more important than us, his family. Family is my priority, but my brother chose to prioritize his fiancée over us. We set up a family meeting to get together in person. My family, my parents, and my brother. The fiancée didn't get an invitation, which was ironic since it wasn't her event to attend. She was very clear about her position. She forced my brother to pick one of us. I haven't spoken to her since my brother told me about this. She revealed her true self. I've had my fill. I don't want to talk to her anymore. Everyone showed up for the family meeting. The atmosphere was awkward and strained initially. I really had no idea what to expect. I just wanted to reason with my brother. I wanted my brother to notice what was going on so we could shift his perspective. My parents made it clear that if I am left out of the wedding, they won't go either, to stand by me. They criticized my brother for not standing up for me and said he shouldn't marry this girl after witnessing her true nature. My brother mentioned he wanted to stand up for me but felt stuck in the obligation of marriage. He believed his fiancée would eventually accept me and was attempting to persuade her. It seems it was a surprise to him that happened a few months back. They had been arguing about it for months, but he didn't want me to get involved. Eventually, he managed to persuade her to invite me. He explained that the uninvite happened because the fiancé insisted it was her big day. She didn't want anyone there who conflicted with her beliefs and felt her family shouldn't be uncomfortable at the wedding. She even threatened to call off the wedding several times. I told my brother that it was his wedding too, and he should have a say, and he agreed. My parents said the move was totally unexpected, and I agreed. My parents reminded my brother how isolated he was getting and would keep getting because of this woman. My brother decided to call off the wedding and end his relationship. He can't envision a future with her. He mentioned that he felt like she was controlling him for a long time, even in areas that had nothing to do with this situation. He was unable to have an opinion on anything. He needed her approval to make decisions. She controlled everything in their lives. He believed that if they had children, they wouldn't grow up in a loving or accepting environment with his fiancée. He realized he didn't want to be involved in this anymore. The fiancé's family played a big role in all of this. We discovered they were funding the wedding and were also trying to control everything about it. My brother told me he loves and cares about me more than anything and that this won't happen again. He shared how, despite it being his wedding too, he felt helpless with his fiancée and her family making all the choices and having control over the financial aspects. The religious aspect was important, but as many of you noted, if it was truly about sin, the guest list would be empty. It was a clear act of manipulation, filled with hatred and bigotry. I felt a wave of emotions hit me at that moment. I felt a mix of relief and shock that this actually occurred. I once thought I might lose my only brother, that he and his fiancée would leave and forget about all of us, his family. I noticed my brother seemed a bit down. He thought he disappointed me and felt really sorry. My brother gave me a hug and said he loves me more than anything. He also apologized. We hugged for a few minutes, and I thought about our childhood and how he was always there for me. He stood up for me, both in my presence and absence. He exceeded all my expectations. He really messed up. He was weak and fell into the trap instead of standing up for what was right, but I didn't want to hold it against him forever. People mess up sometimes. His sincere apology showed me that I want to forgive him and trust him to keep his word. I want him around. I don't want to let him go. The conversation we had was productive, and we resolved everything. He is currently calling off the wedding and ending the relationship. I will support him through this. It hasn't been easy for him, too. He lost a 6-year relationship with someone who was once the love of his life. He's clearly hurting, but he prioritized my well-being. I believe the fiancé has a lot of anger inside her. She's really unkind. For years, she acted like she was okay with me and supported me, but when it truly mattered, her true colors showed. She revealed her negative perspective on gay people. It was a clear attack aimed at a specific target. We are not bad people. We are regular people who should be treated just like everyone else. I've been struggling a lot with religion. I dislike the idea of using hate as a shield to excuse clear bigotry. I'm feeling better now. I can really sense the support and love from those around me. I always think about how fortunate I am, particularly when it comes to my parents. They've been amazing. I shared some of your kind comments from my last post with them, and it really brightened their day to read your nice words. Thank you all for the support, reassurance, and kind messages you've shared with me. It made me feel less isolated. It brought me hope. It made me think clearly. I'm grateful for the people in my life, and I'm glad it turned out well. Be well.